Hi, we're back. This is June Alma of the June Alma Show, and we'd like to continue our talks about the international education and the English language. So, Roger, yeah, do tell us, what do you think, besides, you know, I know you came here because of the business on education, but previous to that, when I was looking through your, you know, your history, you were actually a manager in the UK of a sales manager and a marketing head of what can you tell us about the brief history and what really brought you to Manila?
Very briefly, when I was at university, I studied English literature, which I love, and I quickly realized it qualified me to do absolutely nothing. but it also qualified me to do everything to do with communication. I love driving cars, so I applied for a job that had a car with part of the job. And guess what? It was a sales manager's job, because you cover areas, so you get a car with the job. I got the job. They didn't give me the car, though. That was a little bit of a disappointment. I went through a fairly intensive training program, and at a sort of tender age of about 21, I was put in charge of half a dozen people who were the biggest hustlers you've ever come across. And I was woefully ill-equipped to manage them, and I had to learn very rapidly. England went into a sort of economic depression at that time. We also had a couple of freezing cold winters, and I wanted somewhere much warmer. And through a couple of connections, I ended up being moved out to Papua New Guinea, which I really enjoyed. It was a lot warmer out there. And I was running 7 shops, the retail sales side of 7 shops, doing the purchasing, customs clearance, training the staff for the shops. And I had to learn extremely quickly. Everything was performance-based. And I think by and large I did. But Papua New Guinea was not a sophisticated retail market compared to the UK. So a lot of what I'd learned from the UK I could put into practice, and it worked exceptionally well. Whereas in the UK it was probably just average. But in Papua New Guinea it worked well. That was really where I learnt my, if you like, my people skills. From managing and supervising a range of people, about 200 in all within the organisation. And then the Philippines came next. I came on leave to the Philippines. As I said, I went to a company that was owned and run by Helen Umali, who's now Helen Umali Bartholomew. Met her, and the main company was International Education Specialists. So at that point I realized the skills I learned and picked up, my literature, my communication skills, had to be moved into a different field, which was education. And I wasn't happy just having those skills. I decided learning through experience was one thing, but I'd also got to do a lot of reading, go around schools in different countries, and get to learn really how it all worked. So I had a full understanding of the educational systems.
Okay. So your business in placing students abroad is because you said that you were telling us earlier that your children have already all grown up, and so you have brought them all back to the UK. And so but you're still here and still expanding your business. And apparently, you love Manila, you love the Philippines. So what else is making you stay in the country?
That's a good question. I mean, first of all, our Interred office, it's very fulfilling because we place students overseas to study. 4 or 5 years later, they come back and sit down with us and tell us about their experience. Another 5 years later, they come back in and have a coffee with us as our equals because they've now reached that status. There's nothing more fulfilling than seeing a student who's now 30 years old, they've done their degree overseas, they've now got a very successful business, and they treat you now as their equal. For me, that is very fulfilling, and that will continue. That will always continue. The other area that I'm working very hard on is Southfield Foreign University. We've just brought one of the British universities, University of Chester, over here, and 5 of their bachelor's degrees will be taught starting this year at Southfield. More exciting still, the University of Chester MBA program will be taught starting this September here in the Philippines. a Master of Science in Professional Nursing. So our Philippine nurses can start their master's degree here, finish it in the UK, and get registration and have a career path that can start in the UK and go throughout all of the Commonwealth countries. These are the things I've been working on, and basically what I'm trying to do is create better and better opportunities for the students here who really deserve them, and who really benefit from them. So if you ask me where am I going now, I'm trying to create opportunities for more students.
Yeah. You're opening doors for everybody.
Trying to. It's not always easy, and sometimes when you open the door, you're never quite sure what's on the other side of it.
Exactly.
So sometimes you have to open them gently and have a good look before you throw them wide open. But that's what we're trying to do, exactly, is open doors to more.
Yes, exactly. But with that being said, what would be your, what's your opinion on the fact that a lot of our so-called nationalists prefer that we be educated in our vernacular rather than to be educated, not necessarily 100%, in English, which is supposed to be a foreign tongue, but it's our second language to begin with?
It would be very disappointing if the different languages in the Philippines died out because everyone spoke Tagalog or everyone spoke English. I would hate to see local languages, local dialects die out. I think it's what makes different parts of the country unique, distinctive, and I love it. The only issue with that is if you stick to that very rigidly, to that policy, then people are going to have less opportunity. So I kind of hope that a number of people have the capacity to learn as dual language, English plus another language, which I think is the ideal part. Now, if the nationalists say no English, only the local language, my question to them therefore is, can you provide employment, livelihood, and a quality of living in that location which will meet those people's needs, expectations, and requirements? In the old days, I think you could. Today, I don't believe it. We're more of a global economy. I mean, just watch television. What are the TV shows we watch? Are they all from the Philippines? No. Some are. And it's nice if you can understand the Tagalog, but some of them are from America, some are from the UK, some are from other countries. We're a global economy. I think it's unrealistic today to expect people to stay in their own small regions just with that language from there and be happy with it. So to me, the English language is what creates the opportunity for going beyond those areas.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's a nationalist issue.
Yeah. The best proof of that actually is South Korea right now. A few years ago, you haven't even heard of the industrialization that occurred in South Korea, much less the international recording artists that they're exporting, as well as being number one in shipping, being number one in semiconductors, whereas before they were in debt for $58 billion, and now where are they? Yeah. And they're the most nationalistic people I know also.
And I know you got a Samsung Galaxy 3, so obviously they're doing well.
Must be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our prospects, what do you think of the prospects of the Philippines in that sense?
Wow. You're going to get me shot.
That's why you're here.
Back in, I don't know if you knew this, but 1752 to 1754, the British came to Manila, and they brought Mindanao in as part of it, and they let the Chinese land and settle and put up warehouses and stuff. And a French writer wrote about the Philippines at that time, that the Philippines has got the most incredible potential.
Yes.
100 years later, when the Brits brought the sugar plantations over from Jamaica, another writer wrote, the Philippines has got the most incredible potential.
There you go.
150 years later, we're now 2000, we're still writing the Philippines has got incredible potential.
It's all potential.
Potential can be a curse. When is the potential going to be realized? I don't want to answer that question. I think most people have their own thoughts on that. And I would say the same thing. The natural environment of the country, the people, our potential is fantastic. To realize that potential, that's going to take a certain amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Discipline, ways of doing things, systems, whereby you must stick to the system. You must vision's got to be there, but the implementation's got to be there as well. But you're right.
Vision.
Yeah, implementation. Yes. We've got all the component parts.
Yeah, right.
We have to make it happen.
By we, you mean the Philippines.
The Philippines.
That's what we are always, I believe that's what we always, that's the area where we need help most on. is the implementation part.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they put in several layers within systems, and it, invites corruption.
Yeah.
And
I don't help maybe. What I would like to see within schools and starting with the kids is a values education. Let me give an example, and they're not necessarily my favorite country for this, but many years ago, Singapore had a very, very strong and rigorous police force to enforce all of their rules and regulations people didn't like.
Yes.
Today, you hardly ever see them. Why?
See.
Because
They're already
it's
disciplined.
inculcated and the people police themselves. And if someone drops litter on the ground, it's
Right,
done
right.
by themselves. It's inculcated. That, I think, and it's a long-term thing, but that's where we have to start, is the inculcation of those things within
Values,
ourselves,
yeah.
the values.
What are your thoughts on governments like Canada and Australia, where these are English-speaking, British colonies before, where education now is free?
Socialite.
Yeah, and their government has been so efficient to be able to, cover the educational aspect of all their citizens.
It's a big subject. The funny thing is, the Brits, the Australians, the Canadians all complain about their own schools. And yet if we went there, we would go, oh, wow, this is fantastic. How can... no country is ever happy with their own system. They always tinker with it, monkey with it. So everyone might say, oh, the Danes have got the best system in the world. But you ask a Danish person, and they'll tell you everything that's wrong with it. The answer is that governments do need to pump a lot of money into the school system if they want it to work. But right now, after the Second World War, the school system, the health systems were all very socialist in their outlook, and which I personally like. Today, we're moving towards the US model, where more and more now people have to pay for health, pay for education. It's no longer a right, it's a limited right. Personally, I think it's a retrogressive move, but governments no longer seem to be able to find the funds to provide the way they did before in the Western countries. So I think we're going to see a divide of rich and poor, of well-educated and not so well-educated. I actually think this is going to be a retrogressive move. So I'm not wildly happy with the direction education's going at the moment in Australia, Canada, UK, New Zealand, the Commonwealth countries. I think they're taking a wrong turn.
Are you saying that there has been a shift in policy already from investing into human resource in the areas of healthcare and education perhaps into the military? Or
Not into the not into the military, not in those countries. No, I think they're just finding it hard. There's whole issues here of government liability and things like this. We have created costs which never used to exist before because you relied on people's common sense. Today, apparently, common sense can't be relied upon.
It's not too common.
You've got to pay up for every time, somebody slips on the soap in the bathroom, and so much money goes out of government systems covering this that the amount of money available to keep these systems going on a very sensible basis is a lot less. We become a litigious society. Someone has to be blamed, and then they have to be, they have to pay for what they've done. Makes life very tough for government.
They prefer sense to sense and sensibilities.
Schools have become a victim of this. So there's less money spent on good teachers and more money spent on making sure that there is no way you can hurt yourself in the school.
That's true.
So, what are your suggestions then to be able to sort of bring back the old school, and to
As a final word.
We'll never bring back old school, and probably just as well. Technology has come. There's far more different methods of learning. At the end of the day, there's no substitute for good teachers.
Right.
And good teachers who can use technology to make their teaching even better. Fantastic. I think that poverty hurts us in the Philippines, and that kids are going to school on empty stomachs. There's a Rotary Club here in Makati. All they do is provide breakfast to kids at a government school. Kids go to school, first of all, because they're going to get breakfast, and having got it, they can study better because they're not starving. So that, to me, would be a big plus, something as basic as that. Make sure, at least up until the age of 10 or 11, they've learned simple communication skills, good maths, and they've had good nutrition while they're at school.
Okay.
Be a good start.
Yeah. So that was a really enlightening talk.
Good
with
stuff.
you. Thank you, Mr. Roger Bartholomew. And we hope you enjoyed our talk tonight and you've learned a few nuggets of wisdom out of our conversations. And please do stay tuned because we have more to follow in the coming weeks ahead. And Chair, would you like to give some parting words?
Yeah. We hope that we planted the seeds for discussion as well as started you off on the things that may need improvement in our country. But then again, it's really up to us, not just the education part, it's also the parenting part. It depends on your perspective on what you want for your children. June?
And Mr. Roger Bartholomew, would you like to give your parting words to our televiewers?
The potential's still there. And in some cases, it's being realised. And those who are realising it, you've got some fantastic kids here. They're world beaters. I hope that with their knowledge, the skills, what they bring back from their education, they help this country develop because they are really great.
So there you go. The implementation is the key to progress. So we hope you had a good night with us tonight. And this is June Alma, the June Alma Show, and see you again next week.